Rodney Glen King III was an American construction worker who became nationally known after being beaten by Los Angeles police officers following a high-speed car chase on March 3, 1991. A local witness, George Holliday, videotaped much of it from his balcony. The footage shows 5 officers surrounding King, several of them striking him repeatedly, while other officers stood by. Part of the footage was aired around the world, inflaming outrage in cities where racial tension was high, and raising public concern about police treatment of minorities. 4 officers were charged with assault with a deadly weapon and use of excessive force. 3 were acquitted of all charges. The jury acquitted the 4th of assault with a deadly weapon, but failed to reach a verdict on the use of excessive force. The jury deadlocked at 8-4 in favor of acquittal at the state level. The acquittals are generally considered to have triggered the 1992 Los Angeles riots, in which 53 people were killed and over 2,000 were injured, ending only when the military was called in. The acquittals also led to the federal government's obtaining grand jury indictments for violations of King's civil rights. The trial of the 4 in a federal district court ended on April 16, 1993, with 2 of the officers being found guilty and subsequently imprisoned. The other 2 were acquitted again. Early life: King was born in Sacramento, California, the son of Ronald King and Odessa King. He and his 4 siblings grew up in Altadena, California. King's father, Ronald King, died in 1984 at the age of 42. In November 1989, King robbed a store in Monterey Park, California. He threatened to hit the Korean store owner with an iron bar he was carrying, then hit him with a pole. King stole $200 in cash during the robbery and was caught, convicted, and sentenced to 2 years of imprisonment, then released after serving 1 year of the sentence. King had 3 daughters, one by Carmen Simpson, when he was a teenager, and one by each of his 2 wives. Both of King's marriages, to Danita Lyles and Crystal Waters, ended in divorce. Incident: high-speed chase. On the night of March 3, 1991, King and 2 passengers, Brian Allen and Freddie Helms, were driving west on the Foothill Freeway in the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles. Prior to driving on the Foothill Freeway, the 3 men had spent the night watching a basketball game and drinking at a friend's house in Los Angeles. 5 hours after the incident, King's blood alcohol level was found to be slightly below the legal limit, implying his blood alcohol level may have fallen from 0.19 while he was driving, which is more than twice the legal driving limit in California. At 12:30 a.m., officers Tim and Melanie Singer, husband and wife members of the California Highway Patrol, noticed King's car speeding on the freeway. The officers pursued King, and the pursuit attained high speeds, while King refused to pull over. King would later admit he attempted to outrun the police at dangerously high speeds because a charge of driving under the influence would violate his parole for a previous robbery conviction. King exited the freeway and the pursuit continued through residential surface streets, at speeds ranging from 55 to 80 miles per hour. By this point, several police cars and a police helicopter had joined the pursuit. After approximately 8 miles, officers cornered King in his car at the corner of Foothill Boulevard and Osborne Street. The first 5 LAPD officers to arrive at the scene were Stacy Kuhn, Lawrence Powell, Timothy Wind, Theodore Briceno, and Rolando Solano. Confrontation. Officer Tim Singer ordered King and his 2 passengers to exit the vehicle and lie face down on the ground. King's 2 passengers complied and were taken into custody without incident. King remained in the car. When he finally did emerge, he acted bizarrely, giggling, patting the ground, and waving to the police helicopter overhead. King then grabbed his buttocks, which Officer Melanie Singer took to mean King reaching for a weapon. She drew her pistol and pointed it at King, ordering him to lie on the ground. Singer approached, gun drawn, preparing to effect an arrest. At that point LAPD Sergeant Stacy Kuhn, the ranking officer at the scene, told Singer that LAPD was taking tactical command of the situation. He ordered all officers to holster their weapons. LAPD officers are taught not to approach a suspect with a gun drawn, as there is a risk that a suspect may gain control of it if an officer gets too close. Coon then ordered the four other LAPD officers at the scene Briceno, Powell, Solano, and Winder to subdue and handcuff King using a technique called a swarm. This involves multiple officers grabbing a suspect with empty hands, in order to quickly overcome potential resistance. As four officers attempted to restrain King, King resisted, standing to remove officers Powell and Briceno from his back. The officers later testified that they believed King was under the influence of the dissociative drug phencyclidine, although King's toxicology tested negative for the drug. Beating with batons, events on the Holliday video. After King was struck by Coon's taser the second time as the approximate start of the George Holliday videotape of the incident. In the tape, King is seen on the ground. He rises and rushes toward Powell and what was argued in court as either to attack Powell or to flee, but regardless King and Powell both collided in the rush. Taser wire can be seen on King's body. Officer Powell strikes King with his baton, and King is knocked to the ground. Powell strikes King several more times with his baton. Briceno moves in, attempting to stop Powell from striking again, and Powell stands back. Coon reportedly said, "That's enough." King then rises again, to his knees. Powell and Winder then seen hitting King with their batons. Coon acknowledged ordering the continued use of batons, directing Powell and Winder to strike King with power strokes. According to Coon, Powell and Winder used bursts of power strokes, then backed off. In the videotape, King continues to try to stand again. Coon orders the officers to hit his joints, hit the wrists, hit his elbows, hit his knees, hit his ankles. Officers Winder, Briceno, and Powell attempted numerous baton strikes on King, resulting in some misses but with 33 blows hitting King, plus 6 kicks. The officers again swarm King, but this time a total of 8 officers are involved in the swarm. King is then placed in handcuffs and cord cuffs, restraining his arms and legs. King is dragged on his abdomen to the side of the road to await the arrival of emergency medical rescue. George Holliday's videotape of the incident was shot from his apartment near the intersection of Foothill Boulevard and Osborne Street in Lakeview Terrace. 2 days later Holliday contacted the police about his videotape of the incident. He then went to KTLA television with his videotape, which broadcast it in its entirety. The footage became an instant media sensation. Portions of it were aired numerous times, and it turned what would otherwise have been a violent, but soon forgotten, encounter between the Los Angeles police and an uncooperative suspect into one of the most widely watched and discussed incidents of its kind. The Holliday video of the Rodney King arrest is a fairly early example of modern violence, where private citizens, assisted by increasingly sophisticated, affordable video equipment, record significant, sometimes historical events. Several Copwatch organizations subsequently appeared throughout the United States to safeguard against police abuse, including an umbrella group, October 22 Coalition to Stop Police Brutality. Post-arrest events. King was taken to Pacifica Hospital after his arrest, where he was shown to have suffered a fractured facial bone, a broken right ankle, and multiple bruises and lacerations. In a negligence claim filed with the city, King alleged he had suffered 11 skull fractures, permanent brain damage, broken bones and teeth, kidney damage, and emotional and physical trauma. Blood and urine samples taken from King 5 hours after his arrest showed that he would have been intoxicated under California law at the time of his arrest. The tests also showed traces of marijuana, but no indication of any other illegal drug. Pacifica Hospital nurses reported that the officers who accompanied King openly joked and bragged about the number of times King had been hit. King sued the city and a jury awarded him $3.8 million as well as $1.7 million in attorney's fees. Charges against King for driving while intoxicated and evading arrest were never pursued. Police officers. The Los Angeles District Attorney charged officers Coon, Powell, Briceno and Winder with use of excessive force. Sergeant Coon, while he did not strike King, only having deployed the taser was, as the supervisory officer at the scene, charged with willfully permitting and failing to take action to stop the unlawful assault. The California Court of Appeals removed the initial judge, Bernard Kamins, After it was proved, Kamens told prosecutors, "You can trust me." The court also granted a change of venue to the city of Simi Valley in neighboring Ventura County, citing potential contamination due to saturated media coverage. Though few people at first considered race an important factor in the case, including Rodney King's attorney, Stephen Lerman, the sensitizing effect of the Holliday videotape was at the time stirring deep resentment in Los Angeles, as well as other major cities in the United States. The officers' jury consisted of Ventura County residents, 10 white, 1 Latino, 1 Asian. Lead prosecutor Terry White was African American. On April 29, 1992, the jury acquitted 3 of the officers, but could not agree on one of the charges against Powell. Los Angeles Mayor Tom Bradley said, "The jury's verdict will not blind us to what we saw on that videotape. The men who beat Rodney King do not deserve to wear the uniform of the LAPD." President George H.W. Bush said, "Viewed from outside the trial, it was hard to understand how the verdict could possibly square with the video. Those civil rights leaders with whom I met were stunned. And so was I, and so was Barbara, and so were my kids." Los Angeles riots and the aftermath. The acquittals are considered to have triggered the Los Angeles riots of 1992. By the time the police, the U.S. Army, Marines and National Guard restored order, the riots had caused 53 deaths, 2,383 injuries, more than 7,000 fires, damage to 3,100 businesses, and nearly $1 billion in financial losses. Smaller riots occurred in other cities such as San Francisco, Las Vegas in neighboring Nevada, and as far east as Atlanta, Georgia. A minor riot erupted on Yonge Street, in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, as a result of the acquittals. During the riots, King appeared on television and offered what would later be his famous plea, "Can we all get along?" Federal trial of officers. After the acquittals and the riots, the United States Department of Justice sought indictments for violations of King's civil rights. On May 7, federal prosecutors began presenting evidence to a Los Angeles, federal grand jury. On August 4, the grand jury returned indictments against the 3 officers for willfully and intentionally using unreasonable force, and against Sergeant Kuhn for willfully permitting and failing to take action to stop the unlawful assault on King. Based on these indictments, a trial of the 4 officers in the United States District Court for the Central District of California began on February 25, 1993. The federal trial focused more on the evidence as to the training of officers instead of just relying on the videotape of the incident. On March 9 of the 1993 trial, King took the witness stand and described to the jury the events as he remembered them. The jury found Officer Lawrence Powell and Sergeant Stacy Kuhn guilty, and they were subsequently sentenced to 32 months in prison, while Timothy Wind and Theodore Briceno were acquitted of all charges. During the 3-hour sentencing hearing, the federal trial judge, John Davis, accepted much of the defense version of the beating. He strongly criticized King, who he said provoked the officers' initial actions. Judge Davis stated that only the final 6 or so batting blows by Powell were unlawful. The first 55 seconds of the videotaped portion of the incident, during which the vast majority of the blows were delivered, was within the law because the officers were attempting to subdue a suspect who was resisting efforts to take him into custody. Davis found that King's provocative behavior began with his remarkable consumption of alcoholic beverage, and continued through a high-speed chase, refusal to submit to police orders and an aggressive charge toward Powell. Davis made several findings in support of the officer's version of events. He concluded that Officer Powell never intentionally struck King in the head, and Powell's batting blow that broke King's leg was not illegal because King was still resisting and rolling around on the ground, and breaking bones in resistant suspects is permissible under police policy. Mitigation cited by the judge in determining the length of the prison sentence included the suffering the officers had undergone because of the extensive publicity their case had received, the impending loss of their careers as police officers, their vulnerability to abuse in prison, and their having been subjected to 2 trials. The judge acknowledged that having 2 such trials did not legally constitute double jeopardy. but nonetheless it raised the specter of unfairness. Both Lawrence Powell and Stacey Kuhn appealed their sentences, first to the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit and then to the Supreme Court of the United States, which decided the case on June 13, 1996, with Justice Kennedy delivering the opinion of the court. Later life. King successfully sued the city of Los Angeles in a federal civil rights case. The court jury awarded King $3.8 million and awarded King's attorneys an additional $1.7 million in statutory attorney unregistered trademark S fees. King's lawyer, Stephen Lehrman, distributed the attorney unregistered trademark S fees to the lawyers who worked on King's behalf. King then sued Lehrman for legal malpractice, claiming King was entitled to those attorney unregistered trademark S fees instead of his lawyers. Lehrman successfully defended himself in the action, having the case dismissed on summary judgment, which was affirmed on appeal. King continued to get into trouble after the 1991 incident. On August 21, 1993, he crashed his car into a block wall in downtown Los Angeles. He was convicted of driving under the influence of alcohol, fined, entered an alcohol rehabilitation program and was placed on probation. In July 1995, he was arrested by Alhambra police after hitting his wife with his car and knocking her to the ground. He was sentenced to 90 days in jail after being convicted of hit and run. King invested a portion of his settlement in a record label, Straight Alta Paz Records, which went under. On August 27, 2003, King was arrested again for speeding and running a red light while under the influence of alcohol. He failed to yield to police officers and slammed his vehicle into a house, breaking his pelvis. On November 29, 2007, while riding home on his bicycle, King was shot in the face, arms, and back with pellets from a shotgun. He reported that the attackers were a man and a woman who demanded his bicycle and shot him when he rode away. Police described the wounds as looking like they came from birdshot. In May 2008, King checked into the Pasadena Recovery Center in Pasadena, California, where he filmed as a cast member of Season 2 of Celebrity Rehab with Dr. Drew, which premiered in October 2008. Dr. Drew Pinsky, who runs the facility, showed concern for King's lifestyle and said King would die unless his addiction were treated. He also appeared on Sober House, a celebrity rehab spin-off focusing on a sober living environment, which aired in early 2009. Both shows filmed King's quest not only to achieve sobriety, but as well to re-establish a relationship with his family, which had been severely damaged by his drinking and law-breaking. During his time on Celebrity Rehab and Sober House, King worked on his addiction and on the lingering trauma of the beating. He and Pinsky physically retraced King's path from the night of his beating, eventually reaching the spot where it happened, the site of the Children's Museum of Los Angeles. King won his celebrity boxing match against Chester City Police Officer Simon Ouad on Friday, September 11, 2009, at the Ramada Philadelphia Airport in Essington, Pennsylvania. In 2009, King and other Celebrity Rehab alumni appeared as panel speakers to a new group of addicts at the Pasadena Recovery Center, marking 11 months of sobriety for him. His appearance was aired in the third season episode Triggers. On September 9, 2010, it was confirmed that King was going to marry Cynthia Kelly, who had been a juror in the civil suit King brought against the city of Los Angeles after being beaten by policemen. He had been awarded $3.8 million. On March 3, 2011, the 20th anniversary of the beating, the LAPD stopped King for driving erratically and issued him a citation for driving with an expired license. This arrest led to his February 2012 misdemeanor conviction for reckless driving. The BBC quoted King commenting on his legacy. "Some people feel like I'm some kind of hero. Others hate me. They say I deserved it. Other people, I can hear them mocking me for when I called for an end to the destruction, like I'm a fool for believing in peace." Death. On June 17, 2012, King's fiancée copyrightee Cynthia Kelly found him lying at the bottom of his swimming pool. Police in Rialto received a 911 call from Kelly at about 5:25 a.m. Responding officers found King at the bottom of the pool, removed him, and attempted to revive him. He was transferred by ambulance to Arrowhead Regional Medical Center in Colton, California and was pronounced dead at the hospital at 6:11 a.m. The Rialto Police Department began a standard drowning investigation and stated there did not appear to be any foul play. On August 23, 2012, King's autopsy results were released, stating he died of accidental drowning, and alcohol, cocaine, marijuana, and PCP found in his system were contributing factors. The effects of the drugs and alcohol, combined with the subject's heart condition, probably precipitated a cardiac arrhythmia and the subject, thus incapacitated, was unable to save himself and drowned. King is interred at Forest Lawn Memorial Park, Los Angeles, California. See also, List of cases of police brutality in the United States, History of the African Americans in Los Angeles, references. Notes: the Rodney King beating video is under copyright. For authorization contact www.rodneykingvideo.com.ar, Cannon, Lou. Official negligence, How Rodney King and the Riots Changed Los Angeles and the LAPD. Boulder, Colorado: Westview Press. ISBN A9780813337258. OCLCA 42852365. Further reading: King, Rodney. Lawrence J. Spagnola. The Riot Within, My Journey from Rebellion to Redemption. New York, Harper 1. ISBN A9780062194435. OCLCA 761856270. A King's Autobiography. Kuhn, Stacy C. Robert Damitz. Presumed Guilty, The Tragedy of the Rodney King Affair. Washington, D.C. Regnery Gateway. ISBN A9780895265074. OCLCA 26553041. External links, news story including amateur video of beating incident with commentary video on YouTube, Rodney King collected news and commentary at the New York Times, Rodney King collected news and commentary at The Guardian, Rodney King's arrest record, Rodney King news and commentary at CNN, Rodney King, 17 years after the riots, Layers.com, Cavanagh, Jim. Rodney King, 20 years later. CNN. March 3, 2011. Rodney King at the Internet Movie Database, Rodney King at Find a Grave.